Well, hey there everyone. So inspiration hath strucketh me this week and I wanted to make another pirate outfit. So the last one that I made was like 2 Halloweens ago, and it was kind of more of like a mask kind of one where I wore pants and I made the big jacket. So I kind of wanted to do a little bit more of a femme look to a pirate costume outfit. So I ventured to the Goodwill and I found a bunch of too much material. I spent a lot of money, but a reasonable amount of money on all the material that I got. So I did get a lot of material, and I picked up one of the ones was this really pretty velvety like red curtain. So that's going to be for the corset. And then for the skirt, I am going to make a new skirt for this. I just chose a brown bed sheet and then a white bed sheet as well, which I'll explain a bit later. So that's what's going to be going into the components of this. So I did want a new corset, of course, for this costume, and then I was playing around with making a new shift, but then ultimately decided to just use one of the ones that I already had, and then I made a new skirt, as I mentioned. But the first thing that we're going to be doing is not sewing, because I found out that you can just make your own pirate hat out of EVA foam. So, because I was looking online and I was thinking of buying a pirate hat, but they're all like $20 plus, and I did not feel like spending that money, so I just wasn't going to do one. But then I ended up stumbling upon this person's video about making a pirate hat out of EVA foam, and they even had a free pattern. So I will link their video down below, and it is from this lovely person on YouTube. And it is an incredible video. They do so well explaining even like the painting process of this whole thing. And then again, it's a free PDF pattern, so definitely go check that out because it's incredible. So that is what I'm going to be using for this pirate hat, and that is the first thing that we're going to be doing. So I'm not going to go into crazy detail of how I did the pirate hat just because I can't do justice to this person's video. So go ahead and check that out, and I'll just go over a little bit of what I did and how I did it, but again, not super in depth. So first, for this pirate hat, again, it is out of EVA foam. So I cut out my little pieces. There's like 4 little triangle pieces that create the dome, and then you cut out the rim of the hat, which will then be folded into your pirate hat, and then one last little strip, and that's going to be like connecting some things. So the first thing I did was I put on my protection, which means gloves and a filtration mask for using contact cement and heating up my foam, because that's what you should be doing for your health. So I did that. And then the first step is to take the 4 little triangles and glue them all together to create that dome. Then that little strip that I cut out gets glued to the bottom of that dome, and then the dome gets glued onto the rim of the hat, and you'll see me do that briefly. And then the last step is to take the 3 folds of the hat and glue them up onto the rim so that it looks like pirate hat shape. And then the video does little crosses on the hat, but I wanted to do little buttons instead. So I used googly eyes and I glue them onto the hat so that it looks like buttons when it's spray painted. So I'm gonna catch you back after a little bit. So after I've got all my pieces cut out, I'm going to use contact cement to connect all of these pieces to create the dome piece. After that, I just dremeled down a bit and used the heat gun to smooth out these lines a little bit. And then I put contact cement on the bottom rim of this hat and then the top of this strip, and then I can connect that all the way around the rim of the dome. Now to connect the dome to the rest of the hat. So pretty much we have these little darts here. We're going to put contact cement around the inside of this hat and then around the little darts on the rim. And then they just kind of get folded in on the inside of the dome. After that, the 3 points of this hat can be folded up to make it look like a pirate hat shape. And then this is a trick that I learned online, that if you heat up like places on your foam and then take just like a crumpled up ball of tinfoil, you can add texture that makes it look a little bit more realistic, like leather. So that's what I'm doing here, is I'm just heating it up and then I'm pressing this ball of foil into the hat, and that gives it such a cool texture. After that's done, the last step is to add the googly eyes, which are going to be my makeshift buttons when this is painted. Okay, now that the hat is going through some drying and whatnot, I'm going to shift to the corset for the rest of today. So for the corset, I ended up using this pattern. I just didn't really feel like coming up with my own, so I just used a pattern that I already owned. And I used that's what it is. That corset pattern, which is just a pretty simple corset, but I don't necessarily follow the pattern like usual. I just kind of use the pieces. So this pattern is kind of laid out weird to where the back does this weird thing. So I redrew the back because it's a back piece, and then it's like the side back and side front, and then it's the front piece. So I ended up kind of taking that little middle side piece and separating it into two pieces. So I added that side back piece into the back pattern and just made it one piece, and then cut that little side front piece, and then I have the front piece. Kind of doesn't make sense, but it will. So I cut those both out of the velvet, because the one thing that I know about velvet is that when you're sewing with velvet, you should always just sew with velvet, like no different other lining material, otherwise it just doesn't work out well. So I cut out both my outer fabric and my lining fabric of this velvet piece. Now it's gonna look a little bit weird while I'm sewing, because I didn't want the lining of this piece to have the velvet facing towards me, because it was a little itchy because of the paint or whatever that was on it. So I did use the inside of that piece, the wrong sides, to be the lining. So it's gonna look a little weird while I'm sewing it. It's gonna look like I'm sewing the lining wrong, but I'm sewing it right. So I'm just gonna go ahead and sew all of those pieces together, and then once I've done that, then I can furl the whole thing on top of each other and sew all the way around, and then turn it right sides out. So I'm gonna see you after a little bit. After all the pieces of the corset are cut out, it is time to pin all of them together and sew them together. Once I've done that to both the lining and the outer fabric, I place them right sides together and sew all the way around everything but the bottom, then turn it right sides out and iron it. After that, it gets sewn together at the shoulders, and then I can add my bony channels, put in my boning, put in my grommets, and then sew on the bias tape, and this corset's done. Once everything is turned out and pressed for this corset, which I almost gave up on because velvet drives me insane, but I didn't because it kind of worked. I'm going to sew the arms together at the shoulders, and then I think it's time to add boning and grommet channels, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Just a few along the front and just a little structural down the side, and then grommets down the front. And then I'm going to add my bias tape, which again made me almost quit this project because I would sew on the bias tape and then it would just come on out because I guess it just likes, this velvet likes to peel. So I sewed on the bias tape, and then I did like a zigzag on the bias tape, and then I did another sew on the bias tape, trying to get this to stay, and hopefully it does. So after that, this corset is done. Now on to day 2 of the hat. So I did put some little foam clay at the top because when I connected all the 4 triangles, it kind of left a little hole and I didn't really want that. So I did the day before put some little foam on the top, so I needed that to dry. And then I just like gave it a little sanding down, and now it is time to put on the, what's it called? Plasti dip. I put on the Plasti dip. So I just did a pretty light layer at first around the whole thing. It was kind of hard to get in between the folds of the hat, but I kind of tried that. So I did that little light layer, and then I ended up going back and doing a heavier layer on the inside of the rim because painting it was challenging. So I did just kind of darken that so that you couldn't really tell that it was painted or not. And then I just go ahead and I dry brushed some brown over the paint, and then dry brushed a little bit of a lighter paint over in some areas, but it doesn't really turn up very well, so it just kind of looks like a dark brown blackish hat, and that's fine. And then to top it all off, I just did a pretty light layer of a gloss clear spray paint to give it that like kind of leathery sheen to it. And then this hat was done, and we can move on to the skirt. Now again, I'm just putting on a pretty thin layer of Plasti dip all over this hat. And then I'm just going to take some brown and dry brush it all over this hat and into the crevices, and then I'll go in with a lighter brown and then after I'm done, I can just go ahead and put a glossy spray all over the outside. So for the skirt, I played around with like 10 different ideas in my head. I was pretty stumped on what I wanted to do for the skirt until I took a little brain break and scrolled on TikTok, and then my brain came up with an idea. So that's what happened. So pretty much for the skirt, when I was trying on all of my elements, I tried it on with my normal long black skirt, and I think that's what was throwing me off about the whole look, was that I didn't like a floor length skirt for this, so it's not going to be. It's going to be a like mid-calf kind of length, and that fixed the whole vision for me. So pretty much what I wanted to do for this skirt. So it's going to be a little bit of a circle skirt, and then at the bottom it's going to have a brown set of ruffles, so it's like the skirt, and then it's going to have a secondary underneath like white set of ruffles, so that it kind of looks like there's like a petticoat underneath or another layer. So it's just like fake layering. So the first thing that I do for the skirt was to cut out the very short circle-y skirt, which is going to be the top of this skirt. And then I cut out a bunch of strips for the brown ruffles and then for the white ruffles. And the white ruffles I did a little bit longer so that it could pop out underneath when I was sewing, or when they're all like sewn together. So before I even sewed the circle skirt together, I wanted to get the ruffles out of the way. So I sewed all of those panels together to make a big circle, and then I hemmed them so I wouldn't have to deal with it later. So I did that with both the brown and the white ruffles. So I'm gonna catch you back after that. Now for the skirt, I just kind of measured out how long I needed it and made it kind of a circle skirt shape. And I cut 4 of those. Then after that, I measured out what I needed for the ruffles at the bottom, and I cut out a bunch of strips of both the brown fabric and the white fabric. Now for the ruffles, I just sew all of those strips together to make it a big circle, and then I will hem them. Now that the ruffles are done with, it is time to deal with the actual skirt part. So basically I just take all of these 4 panels and sew them all together to create a circle. And then we can add the ruffles onto the skirt. So I kind of goofed up just a little bit because in my brain I was like, oh, the white layer needs to be first, so then the brown layer could be on top. But that was wrong because the brown needed to be first so that it was the first one showing. But I didn't think about that. So the way that I did do it was I roughly pinned the white ruffle onto the bottom of the skirt, and you'll see how I do it. I just kind of like ruffle as I go. I didn't like do a gathering stitch or anything. So that's how I did that, and then I realized, oh no, that needed to be second, and I didn't want to take it off, so I didn't. So instead of taking it off, I just took the brown ruffle and just pinned it above the white layer so that when it was sewn, it would fall and be on top of the white, and that worked out just fine. So I did use a pleating foot for the, or pleating / gathering foot for the brown ruffle because I wanted that one to look nice because it was on top. So once I gathered that, I just pinned it above the white, sewed it, and then once it fell down, it was great. And then the last step is for the waistband. So I just cut out a waistband approximately my waist size, and then once I did that, I left a little gap at the bottom and I fed an elastic through it. And then I think that's everything done, so I will see you all in the final look. Now it's time for the actual skirt part, so we're just going to take all of these 4 panels and pin them together right sides together, and then I do zigzag the edges to keep the fraying down. Then I went ahead and roughly pinned the white ruffle onto the bottom of the skirt, and you can see me just kind of hand ruffling as I sew along. After that, the brown ruffle gets the pleating foot / gathering foot, and then it gets pinned right sides to the skirt and then sewn down. Lastly, I cut out my waistband, and I just took this strip and made it into a makeshift bias tape, and then that gets sandwiched onto the top of the skirt, and then an elastic is fed through it, and then the skirt is done, and we're ready for the final look. Oh, doggy. This is a warm outfit for the summer. I think this turned out so good. The freaking... Oh, sweaty up in here. The hat, I think, turned out incredible for it being for it being EVA foam. Like, the texturing looks really good. I wish the painting had a little bit more definition, but like I said, the lighter brown was just not coming out very well. But besides that, it looks so good. The corset looks beautiful, even though I almost gave up on it because it pissed me off because I hate velvet. But I'm glad I didn't, because it still turned out really good. The skirt turned out really good as well. I'm glad I didn't screw up with the ruffles either. So that worked. I got my big old pirate boots on that I thrifted. So this is just an entirely thrifted outfit because I also used a bedsheet to make this. So, also this belt's thrifted as well. So this is actually like an entirely thrifted outfit. I get lucky at Goodwill's, as you can see. So, dare I say, another Ren Fair look. Even though probably by the time Ren Fair comes around again, I'll have made like 10 more that I can wear. But dare I say, Ren Fair look. It's sweaty. It's hot in here. Yeah. I loved doing this project. I love dressing up and looking all medieval and cool. So I definitely want to keep doing some more of these. I have a couple lined up because I have a lot of material that I've gotten to make some big dresses. Don't know if I'll do them soon, but I will do them at some point. So at some point you'll probably see another big dress, but for now you just get this July 115-degree outfit. I'll tell you, this corset really hoists the colors, if you know what I mean. So anyway, let me know if you liked this. A quick little update on Twitch. So I'm still trying to figure out my streaming schedule, and for now I think I'm gonna try changing it to Thursdays at 6. Just because I keep ending up being busy on Friday and I don't want to keep canceling a stream. So I'm gonna try to do Thursdays. Come hang out. I think I'm gonna try and play the Quarry tonight, as of my filming, which is tonight on a Thursday. Because the last game that I was playing, which was Song of Horror, I literally just like got stuck and I was just wandering around this house doing nothing, and I ended stream early. So we're gonna go on to a bit more of a controlled game that guides me through it so that I'm not just wandering around like an idiot. So yeah, we're gonna try the Quarry tonight. By the time you see this, part 2 will be next week, and so hopefully now these videos I'll be able to get edited together, because I think I've got the audio fixed, I think. So hopefully the recordings will be better, and maybe I'll be able to make a series out of them. So aside from that, thank you for watching my pirate video. And again, please check out the video linked in the description for this amazing hat tutorial. I'm so glad for it. Aside from that, that's all I have for you. So, anywho to do, if you like what I did, go ahead and like and subscribe. I post most Saturdays, mostly at noon, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you for watching!